I am Vanessa Chan. I am the Chief Commercialization Officer for the U.S. Department of Energy and the Director of the Office of Technology Transitions. So, one of the challenges when we're trying to commercialize technologies is we focus a lot of our time on the research and development of these. So, does the technology actually work? And in reality, the thing that's really, really hard to do is to go from research and development to demonstration and deployment. And if you're trying to commercialize the technology, it actually has to go through all four of those stages. And so when we started the department, when I started the Department of Energy in 2021, it was a very different department than it is right now. And the reason why is through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act, we were given $500 billion from Congress to drive towards the clean energy transition, the largest investment ever made for that. Now, the question we had though was, in the end, $500 billion is a lot, but 23 trillion in the private sector is much more. So we have to use that $500 billion to buy down risk to the point where the 23 trillion can actually activate. So what we did was we basically worked with the private sector to create these commercialization roadmaps for 12 technologies that are going to be critical to the transition, and understood what besides technology needed to be addressed. So things like unit economics, permitting, whether or not there's a supply chain, any critical material shortages, workforce issues, and so forth. And I think that's really the important thing. Is too often we focus on technology, so TRLs. This new way we're thinking is called adoption readiness levels, which are basically assessing the risks besides technology that we have to address to actually scale technologies. We need everybody. So you need the private sector, from companies to startups to local and state governments to communities who are actually going to be ones who are executing on this. You need the venture capitalists, you need private equity, you need governments at the federal level. I mean, it's basically everybody. Because in the end, when you're trying to commercialize anything, it takes an entire ecosystem to do it. And when we were thinking about how do we actually catalyze and bring these technologies to market, there were two things I was super inspired by. One was Moore's Law, when Gordon Moore, the founder of Intel, had wanted to double the number of transistors on a chip. And Semitech created a consortia with everyone involved with the CMOS process in order to understand how could that ecosystem coordinate to actually make this reality. And the second time was the Manhattan Project, when we coordinated as a nation to do something in a very, very, very fast time. So we took Semitech, added to Manhattan projects, and aimed it to clean energy through these pathways to commercial liftoff, which are basically getting every single actor in an ecosystem on the same page of what we need to do. Because even things like insurance industry, they need to play a role on helping to assess the risk. And in the end, there are certain financial institutions that won't be able to back, say, a very large nuclear power plant being built unless there's insurance on the other side. Same thing when you're thinking about nuclear. Do we have the workforce actually to build it? Do we actually have the supply chain to scale it? So it's every single person in the ecosystem has to play a role. I mean, in the end, we need more energy because of the fact that we have an increase in demand through AI and data centers and so forth. And right now, we don't have enough sources of energy to get there. So I think energy resiliency, energy security, as well as cheaper energy. So in the end, what we really need to be able to do is figure out a way to bring all these different technologies to the market. So not only are we able to drive to energy that is able to fill the demand we have, but also that we're able to meet the climate targets as well. And so I think hopefully, that is inspiring everybody. But the key to all of this is, how do we make the unit economics for every single one of these different energies actually affordable? Otherwise, people are not going to adopt it because no one wants to pay more for anything. I think the key thing for me is I think too often we are not looking at systems disruption. And so really this adoption readiness levels and pathways to commercial liftoff is a way that we're catalyzing ecosystems to work together. And that is really the biggest challenge we have, is how do we do that together? And so what I'm hoping is, by creating roadmaps and creating a language around commercialization, people now know what they need to do. And so this adoption readiness level framework that was created by my department and my office is really a language for commercialization. Adoption readiness levels is something which we don't teach in undergraduate or graduate school. Instead, we're teaching people how to do research and development, and that is insufficient for us to get to scale. So what I'm trying to do is teach a language, and that's really what the movement is.